Before we get into a discussion of ethics, let's pause for a quick grammar check. Last week you watched a video about errors that people tend to make in standard written English, which is the dialect of choice for much technical communication. How many mistakes do you spot in this short passage? I'm going to give you some time to think about it. Don't fast forward ahead in the video. Learning experiences are valuable. This passage was written with a questionable grammatical choice in each sentence. The first sentence is actually a fragment. According to research done by the American Association of Engineers, a prestigious organization based in Princeton, New Jersey. Then what? The heart of this sentence, the meat of the sentence, is missing, which is part of why it's a fragment. In the next sentence, we have a tricky comma splice. While we use the word however, like we would the conjunction but, it doesn't have the same grammatical function. I can't join two sentences with a comma and the word however. Easiest fix, change a comma to a semicolon. I could also make two separate sentences. The nice thing about this non-standard choice is that there are several ways to go about tweaking it. What about the last sentence? Here we have a shift in person. It starts off with the very formal one. One must practice writing and speaking. And then it shifts to the more informal you, if you wish to get a good job. Whether you use the more formal one or the more informal you depends on your audience. If you're going for a formal tone, you could rewrite this sentence as one must practice writing and speaking if one wishes to get a good job. If you don't mind being less formal, you could simply say you must practice writing and speaking if you wish to get a good job. And one of the things you need to do if you wish to get a good job is to understand ethical obligations to your employer. This simply recaps what you've already read, hopefully, in your textbook. First, you're expected to know how to do your job and to work hard at it. Part of doing your job well is to do it honestly. Don't steal goods or ideas from your employer. Don't falsify data, as one of your lectures points out. Confidentiality is also an ethical obligation. You don't share company information to outsiders, especially if it could affect the bottom line of your current business. And finally, you should be loyal. If one of your contract bids comes from the company that your spouse works for, you have an ethical obligation to tell your employer and possibly take yourself out of the decision-making process while maintaining confidentiality, not giving your husband or wife a leg up by revealing what your business is actually looking for. And of course, you should not take bribes. These are not only illegal, but unethical. When you're trying to communicate ethically, all of these concepts come into play. You want to be competent, diligent, honest, loyal, and confidential. Bottom line, don't break the law. Don't go using images or graphics or slogans that are copyrighted with that little C in the circle around it by someone else. Refer to your field's code of ethics. There's a reason I had you look at this for the purposes of English 1143. Part of being honest is being clear. We all know how to circumlocute, which is a fancy way of saying to talk around an issue. To communicate ethically, you should be polite, respectful, but clear. You can also use design to highlight ethical and legal information. There's a reason that safety warnings come in bold, all caps, red. There's a reason that some things have yellow highlighting on them. Isn't your eye drawn in a textbook to colors, to images, to larger text? These are all instances of using design to highlight a concept. Don't use discriminatory language. Don't assume that all nurses are women, that all engineers are men. And finally, give credit to all of your sources and all of your collaborators. If you have a group of 4 who has worked for 3 months on a proposal, all 4 people should get credit. Any research you have done, any outside information that you have pulled in must be cited. In this course, we're going to be using APA citation. Different fields use different formats. In engineering, you might find that you're asked to use CSE, the Council of Science Editors format. While the format may differ, the bottom line is the same. You must give credit. Whatever field you're going into, you're going to be asked to communicate information, whether it's about a contract, a design flaw, patient care. And sometimes ethical choices can be tricky. Let's take a look at this example, which is exercise 1 from chapter 2 of our textbook. It's late April. You need a summer job. You find an ad in a local newspaper, but the ad specifically says this is a continuing full-time position. You're coming back to college in August. Is it ethical for you to apply for the job without mentioning this fact? What do you think? If you're not mentioning this fact, are you being honest? Are you serving the best interest of a future employer? It probably is not ethical to apply without mentioning at all. So, is there any way you can ethically apply? How could you phrase the email or the letter of inquiry you might send? Could you admit, I'd only be able to do this job for May, June, July, and part of August, but I could then work part-time until I graduate? Would you feel more comfortable applying if the fall is going to be your last semester or the start of your senior year, and you could offer yourself to this employer as a future continuing full-time employee? Well, you may feel like, look, I need a summer job. I'm qualified for this position. I'll just fudge the details a little bit. This is not a great way to start out as a professional. This company could be your employer after graduation. What if this company is a big player in your field and word gets around that you lied in your application about going back to college? You could find yourself out of other employment opportunities. You could point out the cold hard facts of your situation and offer to simply work part-time during the summer and then continue it until you graduate. If your experience and your interview are impressive enough, maybe the company would like to take a chance on you. It's often good to offer a solution to the problem in your communication rather than saying, I'd really like this job, but I'm going back to college in the fall. Could we work something out? That makes it too easy for the person on the other end of your email or letter to just put you in the discard pile. If you show you can take the initiative, that you have ideas, you have solutions, that might make you more attractive for a position. The ethical dilemmas only multiply once you're on the job. Here's a summary of case 2 from the end of chapter 2. The actual case is very long. I've crunched it all into one paragraph. Crescent Petroleum wants computer work done at its Saudi Arabian headquarters. Denise McNeil, who runs her own firm, wants the job. She went to a Crescent Petroleum briefing, and the team leader was surprised to find out that she was running the company. No one really talked to her. She was ignored. So she's feeling uneasy and asks her technical writer to put together a proposal for this computer work that uses only first initials for all employees to sort of conceal the fact that some are men but some are women. Then she starts worrying that her lead engineer who has a common Jewish last name, Goldstein, might cause additional prejudice, and she might lose out on this work that she knows her company can do. So, ethical questions. Should she disguise the sex of her employees by using only first initials? Should she choose a different lead engineer for this project? Should she somehow change his name? What would you do? So here's an opportunity for you to earn up to 5 extra credit points toward your total for this class. Send me an email through eCourses or to my Prairie View email explaining your answers to these questions. What should Denise McNeil do about this proposal to Crescent Petroleum? Should she disguise the sex of her employees? Should she choose a different lead engineer? Should she somehow change his name? I need this information by 11 p.m. on February 1st. I would also caution you that according to Prairie View's own academic honesty policy, it is not ethical. It is unethical to alert your classmates to this extra credit opportunity. If they choose not to watch the video, they miss out on 5 possible points. Ethical communication with individuals from other cultures is a big factor in most professions these days. One of your discussion forum activities draws on your textbook reading about communicating with more Eastern cultures, so that's something to look for as you do your work this week.